Just wait, they said. Something significant is on the way. My name is Erin. I'm 27, and I reside alone in a small town near Denver in a house I renovated myself. I manage a modest interior design business. Not glamorous, but consistent and quiet, much like most of my life. My family rarely calls me Erin anymore. When they mention me, if they do, it's usually just your sister or her. Sometimes I ponder if I've faded away or if they've deliberately blurred my presence. So, when Mom called 2 weeks before my birthday, I thought it was a misdial. But she started with, "Hi, honey. I was just wondering, what day is your birthday this year?" I replied, "June 14th, same as it's always been." She let out a sound that was almost a giggle, saying, "Well, maybe keep that day free, okay? Don't schedule anything, something's brewing." I inquired what sort of something, but she simply said, "You'll see, it's big." 3 days later, my older brother Zach texted me, "Clear your day. You'll enjoy what's coming. It's about time." Zach rarely texts me unless he needs design tips for his condo or a last-minute gift idea for Mom. This time he didn't request anything. He just sounded in on something, which made me pause. My family doesn't do birthday surprises. Not for me, especially not since college. After I turned 22, they stopped trying altogether. There was the year they sent a group text at midnight with just 2 emojis and no name, and the year they promised to do something. But that never happened. Still, this felt different, like they were genuinely planning something together, and I wanted to believe that. So I canceled my site visit that day and turned down dinner with a friend. I even treated myself to a small chocolate cake with a sugar flower from the same bakery my dad used to visit when I was a kid. I tidied the kitchen, lit a candle, and set 2 plates on the table, not because I thought someone would show up, but just in case. I put on the pearl earrings Grandma gave me when I turned 16, and I waited. By noon, I had refreshed my messages 5 times. By 2, I began checking Zach's social media just to see. The candle burned lower, the frosting on the sugar flower began to melt, and the only question weighing down the silence was, did they really remember me this year, or did they just want me to hope they did? By 2:30, the candle had melted. Halfway, and the sugar flower drooped a bit. I moved the plate, thinking I would wait until dinner. I kept the table set for 2, convincing myself maybe they were planning something for the evening. A group video call, a surprise delivery, even a message starting with, "Close your eyes." I didn't truly believe any of it, but I didn't stop hoping either. I wandered around the house, straightening picture frames, refolding a blanket, picking up a sock that wasn't even out of place. Anything to pass the time without staring directly at the clock. At 4:15, I checked my phone again. No new messages, no missed calls, no texts from Zach, nothing from Mom, just a software update reminder and an email from a furniture vendor. I considered calling them, directly asking, "Is something still happening?" But I couldn't bring myself to do it. I didn't want to seem desperate or, worse, meet confusion. At 5, I sat at the table, staring at the extra plate. I poured a glass of wine, not to celebrate, but because I needed something in my hand that wasn't my phone. I took 1 bite of the cake. It tasted like sugar in silence. By 6:15, I opened Instagram, not to post anything, just to scroll. Everyone else seemed to be at dinners, parks, concerts, smiling beside balloons or holding dogs in birthday hats. I told myself that people post highlights, not to read too much into it, but my own screen remained quiet. No tags, no notes, no, "Happy birthday, Erin." I refreshed the family group chat. The last message was from 5 days ago, a photo of Paul's dog in a silly sweater. Zach had commented, "Legend," and I had added a heart. No one had even noticed. By 7th, the candle had given up. I let it burn out by itself. I thought I might cry, but nothing came. There was no anger, no grand emotions, just stillness. I wasn't waiting anymore, but I still couldn't shake the thought of what the big thing was, and how it could not include me. At 7:45, I reopened Instagram again. I told myself it was out of boredom, but really, I was hoping for one. Photo, one mention, a candle emoji, even a blurry group shot with me tagged late. Instead, I found something else, a story posted just minutes ago on Mallory's account. I tapped it. It opened with a swing of string lights over a wooden deck, then slowly panned to a long dinner table. My parents, Zach, our Aunt Denise, even Uncle Leo who lived 2 states away. Everyone smiling, glasses raised, napkins on laps, the family cabin, the one we had stopped visiting because it was too far or needed repairs, the one I always offered to help fix, the one they said no one used anymore. Above the table, written in uneven gold script, hung a banner. Zach and Mallory forever starts now. The caption read, "A night to remember, Zach's engaged again. Family first." I blinked and read it again. Engaged again? They were celebrating a second engagement, not even the first, just a party, a redo. And somehow, that had taken the place of my birthday. They hadn't forgotten. They had made a choice. And then I saw her. Mallory, in soft pink, smiling, laughing, her head tilted just enough to reveal the necklace. The locket. It caught the light for a moment. Unmistakable. Oval, worn smooth at the edges, with a small etching of leaves along the border. My grandmother's, the one she wore every holiday, every graduation, the one she let me hold at her bedside when I was 12 and whispered, "This is for you, baby, when you're grown, when it's your time." After she passed, I asked about it once. Mom said she was keeping it safe. That was the end of it until now. Mallory wore it like an accessory. No hesitation, no significance. I tapped to the next story. My mother was hugging her, wiping away. A tear. The caption read, "Gained a daughter tonight." My stomach dropped. It wasn't that they hadn't invited me, it was that I no longer belonged. And they weren't sorry. They were proud. Proud enough to post it. Proud enough not to hide it. I wasn't erased by mistake. I had been replaced. Carefully, deliberately, with a toast. And maybe the worst part wasn't what they took, it was how easily they gave it away. I was 12 the last time I held the locket. Grandma had taken it off slowly, as if her fingers already sensed time slipping away. We were sitting on her screened porch, a tray of orange slices between us. The summer air was thick and sweet. She looked at me. Really looked. Not through me, not past me, just at me. "You've got quiet eyes," she said, like my mama did when she was little. Then she reached for the necklace, unhooked the clasp, and pressed it into my palm. "This one's yours," she whispered. "When you're older, when the time is right." Inside the locket was a photo of her and Grandpa on their wedding day, both grinning like they had gotten away with something. The other side held a folded paper heart, cut unevenly, with my name scribbled in fading blue ink. Erin Lee. I remember asking, "Should I keep it now?" She smiled. "No, but you'll know when it's meant to be yours." After she passed, I waited a few months before asking Mom about it. She brushed it off. "Oh, that old thing. I think I packed it up with her scarves. I'll check later." She never did, and I never asked again. I told myself it wasn't about the locket. It was just a thing. I had the memory. That was enough. But I lied to myself more than once over the years. I told myself she didn't forget me in her will, that maybe the lawyer made a mistake. I told myself maybe Mom was just overwhelmed with grief, that she meant to give it back, that it would come back to me when the time was right. It never did. And now, seeing it around Mallory's neck, resting like nothing against her expensive dress, I realized something. They didn't forget my name. They saw it and decided it didn't matter. The locket wasn't just metal, it was proof someone once looked at me and said, "You matter most." And now that proof belonged to someone who hadn't even been there when it was promised. I didn't say anything that night, not to Mom, not to Zach, not even to Mallory. There was nothing to say, nothing that wouldn't sound smaller than what they had already done. Instead, I turned my phone face down and closed the curtains. By morning, I felt empty, not sad, not furious, just done. I opened the family group chat, scrolling through months of shared links, photos of Paul's dog, birthday emojis for Zach, casserole recipes from Aunt Denise. My name or anything about me barely appeared. It wasn't a mistake. It was a pattern. I clicked Leave Group. No message popped up. No, "Are you sure?" Just gone. Then I went to Instagram, unfollowed Zach, unfollowed Mallory, muted Mom's account, not out of spite, but for survival. And then I paused. I opened Zach's profile one last time. His story was still up. He'd added something overnight, short clip of Mallory blowing out candles, my father clapping in the background, my mother holding up a wine glass, and Zach's voice saying, "To the only woman who ever made this family feel whole." I replayed that line 3 times. The only woman. So that's what I was now, a placeholder, a silence, a role waiting to be recast. It wasn't just mom and dad who let me drift, it was Zach too. The same brother who once built a Lego bridge with me for 3 straight days. The same Zach who called me after his first breakup asking if sadness was supposed to feel like hunger. He had said, "Clear your day," and he had used that day to celebrate someone else. No apology, no explanation, just erasure. I closed the app. That afternoon, I boxed up the last framed photo I had of all 4 of us. It had been taken at the cabin, before Mallory, before the silence. I wrapped it in newspaper and slid it to the back of the closet. I didn't delete it, but I didn't need it out in the open anymore. That night, I didn't light a candle. I didn't check my phone. I watched the sky dim slowly through the window and let it be quiet. Not the silence of being forgotten, but the silence of finally stopping the wait. And the question that kept echoing, the one I hadn't dared ask until now. If this is what they do when they say they love me, what would they do if I asked for nothing? The message came 3 days later. It wasn't from Mom, not from Dad either. It was from Zach. "Hey, saw you left the group. Everything okay?" I stared at the screen for a long time. It was the kind of text you send when you already know the answer, but hope the other person will lie to make it easier. I didn't respond. 4 hours later, another ping. "Look, I get that you're upset, but can we just talk?" Mallory didn't mean anything by it. Neither did Mom. Still no reply. The next day, he called. I let it ring out twice. Then he texted again. "You're my sister. That has to mean something, right?" I nearly laughed, not because it was funny, but because it sounded like a line from a show neither of us believed in anymore. By the end of the week, Mom emailed, "Hi, sweetheart. We missed you last weekend. It was all very last minute. Hope you're well. Let's catch up soon." No mention of my birthday, no apology, not even a "sorry we forgot." Just polished nothing. But the subject line stayed with me. Still family. Still, as in, despite everything, as if they had done something noble by thinking of me at all. A few days later, Zach showed up at my door. He didn't call first, just stood there holding a bag of bagels from our favorite bakery, as if that could undo everything. I opened the door, but not wide. He held out the bag. Blueberry and plain, like always. I didn't take it. He shifted awkwardly. "Look, Aaron, I know you're hurt, but do you really want to make this a thing? It was just a celebration. It wasn't about you." I said nothing. He sighed. "I'm getting married. Can we not start this whole division thing right now?" There it was. The ask. Not for understanding, not for repair, just for peace. His version of peace. "Can we just move on?" he added softly. I looked at him, not as my brother, but as someone who had picked a side and needed me not to cause trouble. I said the only thing I knew he wouldn't argue with. "I'm not trying to ruin anything, Zach. I'm just not pretending anymore." He nodded, like that settled it, like I had agreed to silence, but I hadn't. I had just agreed to be done. I didn't go to the bridal shower, didn't RSVP, didn't respond to the AIT Mallory's cousins sent with pastel clip art and forced exclamation points. I wasn't surprised they invited me. It looked good, kept things neat. On paper, it proved. There were no hard feelings. I let it sit in my inbox unopened until it expired. A week later, Mom called. I picked up this time. "Sweetheart," she said, like nothing had happened. "Everyone missed you." I stayed quiet. Zach said, "You're still upset. We didn't mean to leave you out. Things just moved fast. You know how it is?" I almost said, "I know exactly how it is." But I didn't because silence speaks louder when people expect forgiveness. Then she asked, "Will you come to the wedding at least? It's important to your brother." I didn't answer right away. I looked around my house, the space I built, the life I built without them, and realized something I hadn't been able to say before. I used to be there, I said finally. You just didn't look at me. The line went quiet, not dropped, just hollow. Mom cleared her throat. That's not true, honey. But it was. And she knew it. I didn't say anything else. I didn't hang up. I just let the silence stretch between us until she muttered, "Well, let me know." Click. I sat with it for a long time. No rage, no grief, just stillness. Not the stillness of waiting, but the stillness of being done. I used to be there. You just didn't look at me. A week before the wedding, I wrapped the locket, not in a gift box, not in tissue paper, just a plain white envelope, the kind used for utility bills or court summons. I slipped the locket inside, still warm from my palm. No note, no card, just the necklace. I walked it to the post office myself. The clerk asked if I wanted tracking. I said no. I addressed it by hand. Mallory Green, CO. Zachary West. Then I mailed it. No return address, no name. Just the locket going exactly where they thought it belonged. Now, I didn't need it back. I didn't need them to understand. I only needed it out of my house. That Sunday, I received one final message from Zach. "Did you send this?" I didn't reply. There was nothing left to clarify. That night, I took down the last photo of my family still hanging in the hallway. I replaced it with something I had framed years ago but never displayed. A simple sketch I made in college. A chair drawn in charcoal, sitting slightly off-center, in an empty room. One chair unoccupied, still. I hung it straight, stepped back, and looked. A reminder I was there. I stayed at the table long after my seat had been cleared. They wouldn't say my name at the wedding. They wouldn't toast to me in speeches. They might not even notice the envelope arrived, but they'd know. Somewhere deep and wordless, they would know I saw everything. I remembered, and I chose to leave the door open behind me, not so I could come back, but so they'd know I didn't. Have to. If you ever left quietly just so they'd feel the silence louder, you don't need to explain. Just leave a dot. As I settled into this new reality, I found myself reflecting on the moments that led me to this point. The laughter, the shared memories, the love that once felt unbreakable. I was no longer the person they thought they could overlook. I had been shaped by my struggles, my disappointments, and my quiet resolve to reclaim my identity. Days turned into weeks, and the wedding day approached. I kept myself occupied, pouring my energy into my design work, creating spaces for others that felt alive, vibrant, and full of possibility. I started to appreciate the solitude of my home, where every corner echoed my choices and my style, a testament to my independence. The morning of the wedding, I awoke to the soft light filtering through my window. I brewed a cup of coffee and sat at my table, the one that had witnessed so many moments of anticipation and heartache. I had thought about what it would feel like to be there, to sit in the back quietly and observe, but the image felt hollow. I closed my eyes and visualized my family celebrating without me, the laughter and joy that would fill the air. But I felt an unexpected sense of peace wash over me. I decided to honor myself that day. I put on a dress that made me feel beautiful, a deep emerald green that complemented my skin tone. I styled my hair and applied just enough makeup to feel confident. As I looked in the mirror, I reminded myself that I was worthy of love and belonging, even if it wasn't from the ones I had always sought it from. Instead of heading to the wedding, I planned a day for myself. I took a drive through the scenic mountains, the ones I had grown to love, letting the beauty of nature fill the spaces that had once felt empty. I stopped at a quaint little cafe with an outdoor patio, ordered a delicious brunch, and savored each bite. I watched families and couples around me, their laughter a gentle reminder of the love that still existed in the world. Later, I wandered through a local art gallery, immersing myself in the creativity and passion of others. I felt a spark of inspiration ignite within me, a reminder that art, like life, could be unpredictable and beautiful. I spent hours lost in the brushstrokes and colors, reflecting on my own journey, how I could create beauty from my pain. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, I found a quiet spot overlooking a valley. I pulled out my phone and took a picture of the breathtaking view, capturing the moment to remember later. Perhaps this was my way of reclaiming my narrative, finding joy outside of the expectations and disappointments of my family. Later that evening, I returned home, feeling fulfilled and empowered. I lit a candle at my table, one that I had saved for a special occasion, and took a moment to reflect on the day. I realized that I had not only survived the distance my family had created, but had thrived in my independence. In the days that followed, I focused on nurturing my passions and building connections with friends who appreciated me for who I was. I met new people who inspired me, and I allowed myself to be vulnerable, sharing my story with those who cared to listen. My interior design business began to flourish, and I found joy in creating spaces that felt like home, not just for others, but for myself. And while I knew my family would continue on their path, I felt a sense of closure. I had left the door open, but I was no longer standing at the threshold waiting for them to come back. I had stepped into a new chapter of my life, one where I embraced my worth and celebrated my individuality. I was ready to write my own story, one filled with love, laughter, and the beauty of being truly seen.